So welcome to Startup Slam, I guess, everyone. I caught the end of the keynote and was really inspired by it, so I think you guys are going to have a great week of talks. Thanks for signing up to our talk today. We'll try our best not to disappoint you. So purpose, vision, and values is a little bit different from that. Our talk today is going to be about why culture isn't stand-up desks, beer Fridays, or free lunches.
It's not? I came for the snacks, so I guess we're done, right?
So that's basically how this talk is going to go. So first off, I'd just like to introduce you to my sarcastic partner in crime today, Magda.
Hey everyone, we did already get a little bit of an intro, so I don't need to go into too much detail, but basically I do the people ops stuff at Kano, which means that hiring, recruitment, and all things team culture is what I do and think about most days of the week.
My name is Tim Tay. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Kano. I'm actually a UVic alum. I graduated with a degree in computer science from UVic. I actually met my co-founders for Kano on the first day of university in residence in the Margaret Newton building. Anyone know where that is? So we met on the first day, but we didn't actually start Kano until quite a few years after we finished school. Kano was really started out of our desire to build something for ourselves. I was software contracting at the time, working with a lot of clients, and it was 2008, and the economy kind of went like this. And it was really difficult to chase down clients, and so more of my time was spent chasing clients versus, building things, which is what we wanted to do. The other thing that I didn't really like about that process was building for clients. You're building someone else's vision, what they're looking for, and you don't have a lot of say in that. We really wanted to build something that would resonate with a huge customer base. Social networks were kind of becoming more established at that time. The big social network at the time was MySpace. I don't know if anyone here would remember that. But MySpace was there, and Facebook was just kind of starting to grow. So we took a contract to make a Facebook game, and we just saw the huge opportunity that was available on the platform. You could grow a huge player base without spending a lot of marketing dollars. So we quit our jobs. One of my partners was in Portland at the time. I'd phone him in the morning when he was going through his hour-and-a-half commute to work and saying that you don't have to commute an hour and a half in Victoria. Why don't you come back and build this thing with us? So he did, and we quit our jobs. We moved into a condo, or we worked out of his partner's condo at the time. I would wake up, walk in, and make her a coffee in the morning when she was waking up because I was working out of her kitchen. Within 4 months of just writing code, we put out our first game, which is a game called Viking Clan. That game had about 250,000 players in a matter of weeks, and we started to monetize immediately through in-app purchase. We were profitable in our first year. We hit $1 million in revenue in the first year, which was awesome, mainly because we bootstrapped the company up until that point, and if we failed, we'd have to go and find jobs so that we could live. So since that time, Kano has continued to grow. We went from 3 people in a condo. I pulled my brother out of UVic at the time. He was just starting his computer science degree. My parents weren't really happy about that. But I pulled him out of school. He joined us. And then we started to kind of double our team every year. Since then, we've put out 5 games on various social networks and also on iOS and Android. We've had tens of millions of players play our games and continue to play our games worldwide. Now, as a company, we're 30, all 100% based in Victoria, actually 1 person in Vancouver currently, and we continue to be self-funded, profitable, and growing. We're hiring.
Okay, so you guys might want to know what we're going to talk to you about today. Importance of culture and values. How values drive positive growth, and some of the things that Kano currently does and that we've had success with in order to strengthen our culture and grow our team.
So yeah, the importance of culture and values. So getting back to our initial statement that culture is not stand-up desks, beer Fridays, or free snacks, and it's not foosball tables either. But this is kind of like the misnomer that people, especially people outside of tech, really view this as your culture. Even when people come to our office, they walk in, they see a foosball table, and they say, "Wow, you guys must have really great culture. You have a foosball table." And that could be further from the truth. I think those things are awesome. I think most companies, especially startups, will have a lot of those things. Those are great for employees, but those are perks. They're not culture. What culture is are the shared beliefs, shared values, beliefs, and standards that really glue a company together as it drives towards its mission. These are the things that are important for you retaining talent within your company. Perks are really great, I think. It's nice to come to the office and be able to bring my dog to the office to make an espresso in the morning and to play a game of foosball through the week to kind of release some stress. But those aren't things that are going to help you keep really great people and talent in your company. If they are, then I think you have a lot bigger problems than having a great culture.
So what do you think is more important, people or strategy? Hands up for those that think people are more important. Okay, what about strategy? All right, less sure, okay, less people.
So if you said people, you're absolutely correct. Strategy is really important. I don't know any company, especially tech companies, that don't have a strategy in place. But that said, who makes up strategy? People. And more importantly, the right people are important in creating a winning strategy. So for us as a company, we really view people or the right people as the most important asset to our company. And this is something that's shared by a lot of other people and a lot of other companies. Culture is viewed as the #1 priority here by Zappos. Tony Hsieh of Zappos has this quote. We believe that culture is really important because our people are important. And having a great culture helps you to make sure that you can attract and retain the best people. In particular, as part of culture, there's a piece called core values. And core values are really what's important in terms of trying to unite your people towards a common goal. So core values are the principles that guide a company's actions, unite its employees, and define its brand. And this is probably one of the most important pieces of culture within a company. So how do values drive positive growth? Well, let's use Kano as an example. We have an overall mission. That mission is to build meaningful connections through lasting social games. We want to be a company that's around for a really long time. We're more, if you look at this, we're less interested in trying to create a bunch of new games. What we're interested in is building a strong community around our games and having those players stick with us for a really long time. I talked about that first game that we created almost 10 years ago now, Viking Clan. That game has players that started in the first month that continue to play and monetize in the game today, 10 years later. That game has had people get married, meet in the US and the UK and get married. we've had a Kano baby come formed from playing Viking Clan. So that's our mission. And our core values are really what help align all the staff, everyone in the team, towards making sure that what they're doing on a daily basis is driving towards that core mission. If we take the example of player obsession as part of one of our core values, I'll give you a real-world example. So revenue is important to companies, and it's definitely important to our company. And say you want to increase revenue. So as a company, you're in a team that's thinking about this problem set. So how do you do that? Well, someone might come up with the idea of saying, you know what? We need to take every player that we bring in and squeeze them as hard as we can. We need to try to pull as much revenue out of that person as possible. But if we do that, what's going to happen is that player is going to churn really quickly. They're not going to want to stick around for a long time. You're not really building trust with them. You're not adding any value. But that's okay, because you know what? Now that we've made a lot more money, we're just going to take marketing and we're going to pour that into the equation, and then we're going to have this churn and burn model of bringing players in, monetizing them really hard, and then moving on to the next group of players. Now for us, we would look at that situation and that opportunity and say that it's not something that we would ever do. And that's not something that we have to walk through with the team that's making that decision, because they look at our core values and they know that because of our core values and our focus on player obsession and trying to build trust and longevity with players, that we would never do that, and they won't choose that. The other thing we can look at from the other side is the team itself. We have a core value of ownership. As a company, we're moving really fast, and most times tech companies are moving really fast. And that requires people to have a lot of trust with each other. When you're moving fast as a company, you take a lot of risks. And when you take a lot of risks, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to get it right the first time, every time. So when you make mistakes, what's important is that you take responsibility for that. That when you make a mistake, someone is able to say, look, this is what I could have done better in that situation, and they're able to reflect on that so that we can quickly improve, take those learnings, and become better as a company. Now you're sitting in an interview with a developer that's the rock star developer, the best developer that you've ever seen. And through the interview, you're talking to this individual, and you're like, wow, they're so strong technically. I think they would be an awesome fit for our team. But then you're hearing things in the interview, like the individual saying, you know what? I built this, and nobody could have done it without me. When this thing went wrong over here, it was everybody else's fault. They're not as good of a developer as I am. They really needed me to be there for the team. As soon as we hear that in an interview, that doesn't fit with our ownership core value. We don't even look at that person. They may be the best developer again in the world, but they don't fit within that team. And the team is what's really important, because, if you're a founder and you're trying to grow a company and scale it, it's very difficult to scale and do a lot of things as one person. But you can do a lot of things as a team and as a group. So it's important that you guys are aligned in that mission so that you can build that trust. So these are some other core values of a lot larger companies than us, some very successful companies. I think what's interesting here is that all of these core values are different and unique to each company. And I think that's really important. I think it's important to note that your core values are aligned to help you reach a mission. And these are the different, each of these companies has a different mission that they're trying to accomplish. So when you guys are coming up with core values for your own company, or you're looking at your core values within your own company, it's important that you're not pulling these things off the shelf. That you're not just saying, hey, Facebook has a really great core value, I'm going to take that one and use it. Or Zappos has a really great core value, I'm going to use that. Because it's not authentic to you. It maybe doesn't align with your mission or your overall goals. So how do you actually come up with core values and put them together for yourself? Well, that process is often organic. I talked about us starting Kano as 3 people in a condo. We had a computer science background and 2 engineers. We didn't know anything about business. I didn't even know how to negotiate a lease when we started. When we were in the condo and trying to figure out how we're going to move to our first office, we were like, what do we do? On sales calls, what I would do is, we're trying to buy and work with different ad partners and negotiate with ad partners. I would phone up these ad partners, have a conference call with the first one, figure out the lingo that they were using, and then use that lingo in the second call. So core values are often organic. As a small company, we were 3 people in a condo based in Victoria, no other gaming companies around, and all the other gaming companies were basically in San Francisco. So you walk down down the street in San Francisco and you can see other co-founders that you can talk to and learn from. We didn't really have that at that time. The tech community wasn't as good as it is now. We didn't have things like Startup Slam. And as a small company of 3 people, we were competing against companies that had huge venture-backed funding. So those companies had 50 people on their dev team. We had 3. They could put out 10 features in a month. We could put out maybe 2. So one of our values around player obsession was really born out of us figuring out, how can we make sure that everything that we put out to our audience is going to be impactful to them, instead of trying to put out 20 of them that are going to fail. So we started to build relationships and we started to talk to our players. And we just started to say, hey, you know what? We're not this big company. We're a small company. But you know what? We're very invested in you guys as our players, and we want to create the best experience for you. So we talked to them, and we figured out what they were looking for, and we used that information to help us build better features that would resonate with that audience. And that's something that's kind of carried through with us as a company. In terms of the resourcefulness side of things, like I said before, we didn't know a lot of things, so we had to figure it out along the way. And as 3 co-founders, ownership is, I think, pretty easy at that point. We were kind of looking at it like, if we don't make this work, we're not going to be able to eat. The other side of that was trying to figure out the type of company that we wanted to build. We'd worked for companies before where we didn't really respect leadership, because we felt leadership was like the boss that was like, hey, I know this, I'm telling you guys what to do, but they weren't leading by example. And that's not the kind of company that we wanted to build. We wanted to build a company where everybody felt strongly that everybody else was pulling weight and was being an owner of what they were doing. So this conversation over time, you come up with your core values, they're organic, they're not put down anywhere. You're thinking about them, you're living them, you're breathing them, so that becomes really easy. And say your team is only 2, and if you look at that line, that's the line of communication between the 2 of you. You guys are seeing each other every day, you're talking about what you value. Maybe that's your co-founder, you're aligned. If you're not aligned, that probably stops right there and doesn't continue. But then you become 4, and there's a lot more lines when that happens. There's more lines of communication, it's a little bit more complicated. But you're still seeing these individuals every day, and you're able to have that conversation and keep that conversation about what you guys value, your principles, what you're trying to accomplish together, is at the forefront of every conversation you have. Now look at when your team is a little bit bigger, around 15 people. That's a lot of lines. And imagine these dotted circles being teams that you deal with on a daily basis, but maybe don't interact with each other. Maybe they interact once a week or once a month, and they're working on different things, and they're focused, and they're head down. In this case, and when you're hiring new people, maybe your values, you don't get to see those new people on a daily basis. You don't get to share your thoughts and your feelings and your principles with them. And that's kind of shared down the line. So what happens is, has everybody played the game Broken Telephone? Yeah, probably. I mean, that's kind of what happens. Things break down. Communication breaks down, your intent gets diluted. So formalizing your core values at that point in time really makes sense because it helps you scale that vision, those principles. So in terms of formalizing your values, the other byproduct of that is that it helps you to focus on what you value and bring that down to what the actual core values are, what's important as part of your business. Now, once you have formalized values in place, I think what's really important is you guys saw the different bubbles and how a company changes and how we've grown, how different companies grow over time. Your values can change. So once you formalize them, it's important to realize that they don't have to stay fixed. You don't have to keep with your core values because now they're formalized and they're written in stone. They should change and evolve as your company grows and as your mission changes. And I think that's really important. So for us as a company, we make sure that, even on a yearly basis, we're sitting back and we're talking to the team and we're trying to understand what they value most and make sure that our core values align with that.
So I'm going to tell you guys, or let you guys know about some of the strategies that Kano currently does that has worked really well for us to strengthen our team and our culture. So first steps first, you got to start with the right people. This is going to be a lot easier to do right from the outset rather than trying to rectify or fix this down the line. Kano. Okay, yes, also. So Kano believes in a bottom-up culture, which basically just means we want to ensure that all of our staff feel empowered to make impactful decisions from each and every seat within the company. The thing that's going to get us to ensure that we get there is to look for the passion and look for those key belief systems that's going to get the right people in those right seats. So how do we start? Our marketing strategy. So our marketing strategy it's not like we sat down one day and thought to ourselves, hey, how can we flash up our Insta profile and make it look a lot more interesting? These were things that Kano was already doing, but we realized, why don't we showcase it? Why don't we show it to potential applicants and the talent pool that's out there and just show them all the things that we're already doing? So for example, our handbook, our employee handbook, it's something that we give out to new staff on their first day. It kind of outlines how we do things, the way that we communicate, the way that we interact with each other and solve problems. And we realized that we might as well let other people know what this is all about and what this looks like, so then they have a better idea of what it's like to work at Kano. A video, that's Henry in the shot up there. So we shot a video earlier this year. We had a little bit of fun with it. We actually talk about our core values directly in that video. Again, just showcasing what we use to guide us in our day-to-day work lives. Our social feed usually just kind of talks about the initiatives that we're a part of, the community events that we participate in and try and promote. So these are all things that we're already doing. A key part with our marketing strategy also is not just attracting the right talent, but it's also turning people that aren't into Kano and aren't what we're into off, because that just saves all of us a lot of time in the long run. It means that they're not applying with us if ultimately it's not going to work out and they're not going to be a good fit. Okay, so we've attracted the right talent. What's the next step? The next step is our hiring process. And so, qualifications, skills aside, obviously you need those to get in certain seats within the company. Beyond that, what we're really trying to do is dig into people's core belief system and how they operate and function on a day-to-day. So they've already had a bit of an opportunity to check us out and see what we're like as a company. Now it's our opportunity to figure out what they're like as a person. And this comes down to questions and process. And part of that process is bringing our team into it. So it's very rare that a candidate will come through the door and they'll just meet with me, or they'll just meet with, say, Tim or one of the founders. Often they're also obviously going to meet with their manager, but they'll also meet with their team members. And part of this is so that our team has an opportunity to meet these people, and there's a bunch of different ways where we can distill out what these people are like. A caveat here is that when you're hiring, there's a lot of talk these days about hiring for fit or making sure that people fit in your culture. So what we really want to ensure is that, we're not hiring friends. We're not hiring people whose personalities we like or for particular personality characteristics. These are people that really just share those core beliefs. We want to stay agile and diverse and creative, and so we need to hire people from various backgrounds in order to do that. Okay, this quote by Stephen Covey, I think, really highlights that once you've attracted the right talent and potentially hired, fingers crossed, the right people, then you're never going to have to manage those people again, because their passion and their motivation and their inspiration is going to come from within. So they're not going to need a manager that's going to be like, hey man, you've been showing up late all this week, or you're dragging your feet to work, because you've already made sure that they're there for the right reasons. Okay. So we've attracted the talent, we've hired the right people, then what do? Well, we have to remind them why they're there in the first place. So these are some strategies that we've used at Kano that have worked really well for us. There's a billion ways that you can do this, but these are things that have worked really well for us. So we have formal performance reviews several times a year. Those are really an opportunity for us to sit down with our team members and have them reflect on our core values and think about where they sit and how they match and how they're doing. It's also an opportunity for their managers to let them know how we think they're doing. Something else that we bring or tease out directly in that process is our core value of curiosity. We have personal development goals that we get everyone to set at the beginning of the quarter or the 6 months. And this is an opportunity for them to think about self-improvement things that they want to learn, a new technology that they want to play with or experiment with. And these are all for that reason of self-improvement, learning something, and ultimately making their lives more fulfilled and bring that back to Kano. Book clubs, again, flexing our core value of curiosity. This is a great way for us to learn potentially something new, bring new ideas or things that we can use at Kano to improve Kano as a company. The cool thing about these is that they're often suggested by the staff team as a whole. And then there's really candid discussions that come out of that. So we talk about what we liked, what resonated with us, what we didn't like. So as part of those candid discussions, we also have, one-to-one meetings. We have team meetings. We start off our all-hands meetings every month. Again, with our core values, we tie that back to our mission statement where we're like, why do we come in here on a daily basis? That all ties into that reminder of why we're there, why we're doing what we do. And then lastly, 15.5. This is a software that we really like to use. It basically just provides a weekly check-in for people to interact with their teams or managers. Something that I really like about it too is that you can directly talk about your core values and again, use that as a reminder.
And I think just talking about reminding and keeping things relevant, a lot of companies create core values and then it goes up on the wall. And then they don't talk about it. And people don't even know what the core values are.
Can we do that? Because I think that would make my job easier. Let's do that, actually.
Well, we can add that. That can be a supplement. Okay. But in terms of, putting up your core values on a wall, that's not enough. If the CEO doesn't know the core values, then likely other people within the company don't know what they are either. And the other reason why I think core values should be reminded through different ways and through formalized ways is that you're going to be a fast-moving company. Your head's going to be down working through problems and trying to solve different things. Sometimes you're going to get lost in your direction, And what the core values are going to do is help bring back why we're all here. What's the bigger picture? What are we trying to accomplish as a team so that we're not going down this rabbit hole of moving in the wrong direction?
All right, so we've attracted the right talent, we've hired them, we've reminded them of why they show up to work on a daily basis. What's left? The fun part, right? Reward and celebrate. But this isn't just about having fun. Slide. Thank you. This is also as a way to show our team how much we appreciate them and value the work that they've done and the fact that they show up every day and follow those core values and feel that ownership value and take responsibility for the things that they're doing. So this is a kudo that I pulled actually using 15.5 again, that a team member sent directly to another team member. Changed the name, we don't have a Raiden at our company. But again, this is just highlighting that and showing our appreciation for each other, really. Some other ways that we go about doing this is through the rest of our team events. So these range from monthly to annual events. Obviously, some of these are based on just having a lot of fun, like our Christmas event and our the VIATEC Awards, that sort of thing. But what they're also doing is creating community within Kano, and they're creating camaraderie and relationship building. So, for example, with our monthly events, we are headquartered in Victoria for a reason. We love it here. We try and promote quality of life and work-life balance at Kano. So something that we do with our events is we try and have like a little bit of a health focus. So whether it's yoga, lunch, or run club, or whatever it may be, those are all just to encourage people that, we work, but we also do other things too, and other things in our lives are also important, and we acknowledge that, and we value and appreciate that. And then I think the other part too with our bigger events is that it allows everybody to level on a human level. So where, for example, our CEO might not interact with a player success person on a daily basis, or if they do, it's always going to be work related. We're taking Tim out of that seat as CEO and personifying him so that people can see that he's not just this hotshot that he obviously comes off as, but that he is a person and he's a human and he has a family and he has other things going on. And then people can relate. And I think people take that back to work, and then it builds that level of trust where people can know that they have each other's backs and they support each other.
In tying this to core values, I think what's really important is we built a really diverse team at Kano, and hiring through specific core values really helps with that. I'll give you an example. So say you're starting a company right out of university, and you're super excited, and you like to work really long hours, and you like to party. So you say, hey. This isn't a personal story. No, it's not a personal story. Friend of a friend. Right. And so you think, work hard, play hard. That's going to be a core value. And then your company is now 10 years old, and you have a 2-year-old, and the thing you want to do the most on a Friday night is, go to sleep and get a good night's rest. I think it's important when you're defining core values that you think about what is important to my mission, what is important to the general mission, and make sure that your core values are not going to alienate people. The worst thing that you would want to do is base core values around like personality traits, and then end up with a really homogenous kind of organization. So for us, I think the interesting thing when it comes down to team events is we do have people from all different walks of life, but because they share these values and because they trust each other every day and they get to work with each other, they know that they share these values and they know that they're in the trenches and they have each other's back, that they're able to then connect on a different level. And we see a lot of friendships and camaraderie come out of that.
Yeah, have you ever had events or other forms of like team celebration not work out well? Or like what's something surprising you've learned in 10 years of like running a team celebration?
I can answer that in just my 2.5 years at Kano, not the full 10. I'd say in terms of, at least in my experience, I wouldn't have things not work out, but something that I've found to be really successful was when I started, we did kind of the usual, like, let's all drink beer together on a Friday. But what we've done a lot more lately and has been really awesome has been kind of the smaller, not group activity of like, let's not try and get the whole office to do this, but specific things. So that's like the yoga or the running. Something else that we started was Magic the Gathering. And actually, we didn't start that. That was somebody else on the team where they just invited people to come learn how to play this game. And then a competition started. But what's cool is that then it, then people's interests get teased out of that, and then you get people that maybe wouldn't normally participate in like the big group activities come out because for some reason it speaks to them. And I think actually breaking it up and having the smaller things works a lot better.
Yeah, I think like the big team event, like a mandated fun, like people don't like that, I guess. Some people like to get together for those big events. Some people are just like, I'm introverted and I don't want to talk to people and I just want to work. And but smaller events or different types of events. So I guess diversity in the types of events that you have and trying to get polls from staff in terms of what they would like to do. Really draws things out. So you can give an example.
Well, and I think Tim was saying, when they were first started out and they had a team of 6 people, it was really easy in the middle of the day to be like, hey guys, let's go grab lunch or let's go for a round of drinks at the end of the day. But when you're at, 26 people, that's actually impossible to do. You can't do that. And so that's where the formalized events are needed and important, but then also kind of playing around with those and how those look has been really, I think, shown us a lot more success breaking them down.
Team Beer Friday is a very bad idea because everybody ends up being sick the full week after the event.
Especially this time of year.
Yeah, so that's our talk. We just want to open it up mainly for Q&A right now. So I guess, yeah.
If you feel like there's a disagreement on the idea of core values / practices along team members inside the company, what do you think is the best approach to resolve it?
So disagreement definitely happens. I think the first step is discussion. So we're, something that we encourage at Kano is conflict. We want people to disagree. I would say that would be where it started.
Yeah, I think, we very much believe in going with the best decision, not the HIPPO, the highest paid person's decision, I guess. So we try to involve everyone in the process of trying to put together our values. So one exercise to actually kind of tease this out is called the Mars exercise. And basically you take everyone in your company and you say that, look, Martians have come or aliens have come and taken over the world. And they're asking a bunch of questions, or not taken over the world, have arrived on Earth. And they want to know more about Kano and more about our company. So what we'd like you to do is tell them, who are the people that you think are your best colleagues, and what are the traits that they bring forward that really exemplify why you want to work with them? And that kind of brings out traits that are alive within our organization that people value. And we use that type of feedback to help us kind of round out where we are.
I think also, I just wanted to add, is that sometimes people might struggle to see how a core value relates to you or your position. So using myself as an example, for example, player obsession, I'm pretty removed from the players in the company. That's not, I guess, my job on a day-to-day basis. But if you can frame it in a way that it motivates you or that makes sense for the job that you're doing or the role that you sit in, then you can still get behind that core value and what it means. So, and I think that, again, that happens with discussion. That happens with, for example, in those performance reviews and having a discussion with your manager of what that looks like. So that's another way to kind of tackle that.
One thing, though, that I think is really important is that once you have a set of core values that you guys believe in that are going to drive towards your mission, if you have individuals that are not going to, I guess, abide by those core values, you know, from the interview process, I don't think you should hire those people. But if there's people within the organization that don't align with that, they probably should go. And that's probably best for them. And that doesn't mean that they're not an A player. It just means that they're not an A player within our organization and a good fit. They may be a great fit in another organization. But I think it's really important that you make that call for the integrity of the team itself.
Any other questions?
There is one here. It's 11:02, but I think we should be quick. How long do you expect people to be or stay at your company?
That's a good question. For life? No. For however long it works. So we understand that some people are going to outgrow us and we're going to outgrow some people. And if we're together and making great work and great product for a certain amount of time, that's awesome. And then if it's not working, that's awesome too.
Yeah. Typically, people will stay with us either a long time or they move on pretty quickly. But one of the most important things, you know, we have a value of curiosity and self-improvement. What we're trying to do when we bring someone into the company is to have an agreement where Kano is getting a lot of value from that individual, but that individual is also gaining a lot of value from Kano. And if that continues to move forward in that manner as they go through the company and as they gain more experience, that's a great thing, because when we split and we move apart because maybe we've outgrown them or they've outgrown us, at that point, we're in a really good position. And then maybe like 3 years down the line, when those things match up again, maybe they can come back and work with us. And that's something that we'd love to see.
Cool. Oh, something's happening now. Oh, yeah, okay. Non-Slido people. Wow, some old school people. Okay.
There must be some challenges. So what's the biggest challenge you met and how you solve it?
The biggest challenge? No, we wear the same thing pretty much every day. No, I think probably the most difficult thing was making that first jump and saying, if we're going to quit our jobs, we're not going to have any income coming in, and we're going to just bank everything on making this successful. I think that's probably the scariest thing. And then, you know, through the years, I mean, there's lots of different things and lots of different challenges and adversity that you see. Change in the platform, for example. When we started, Facebook didn't take a 30% cut of the revenue that we were generating. Then one day, they started doing that. So that hurt us. One day, the viral channels that they were providing to us that helped us to grow really quickly without paid marketing were cut off, and now you have to pay for marketing to try to drive players to your game. You know, those are different things that happen. But like I said, it's the team that rallies together with the common mission and helps you to push forward.
Cool. And I don't know how we're doing for time. Yeah.
Are we okay? How did you overcome starting a business with like little to no business knowledge or experience?
So we didn't take any course. I mean, we did. So later on, we did reading. I think was one of the biggest things. Like, there's so many business books that you can read, and you know, one life hack if you don't like reading is Audible. If you're traveling or you're working out or you're running or doing anything, There's so many great business books on Audible that you can just listen to, lots of podcasts. One thing that we found that was really interesting was the tech community, and they said it in the keynote, the tech community is just so open and willing to help. So you find a company that's like successful or that's interesting, that's doing something similar to you, and you just email them or you send them a message on Twitter. And most likely you're going to be able to grab a coffee with a CEO who is going to sit with you for 15 minutes and give you some information and knowledge. Different organizations, there's tons of information. Google, yeah.
How do you encourage participation in those small events that you do? Do you ever have problems with that? As startups that are bringing a lot of hours, so do you include it in the workday?
Yeah, so a lot of our events are included in the workday, especially now because of our changing culture where people have families and they want to leave at the end of their workday. So a lot of our events at least accommodate that in some degree. I think part of the reason of why we move to the smaller events also is because rather than trying to get the interests of 30 people in an office, you're going to get the interest of say 8, but that's great. And then you'll do something else for a different 8 people. And so I think that's where the success has been, is trying to find something that 30 people like. That's going to be hard to do. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Now that you've got that sort of changing work environment better, do you find that there's more desire to bring family into business, and does that have any kind of effect on, I guess, the other relationships within the office if sort of family gets involved? So when you've got events, rather than just, do you ever find that there's a desire rather than just say, let's go out on Friday for beer, instead let's all go to the park with our families and have a picnic kind of thing?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's really important. I mean, one example of that is like our Christmas event. I guess doesn't really include a lot of kids at this point because it's later in the evening. But one thing is we're all humans, we're all people, we all have things going on outside of work. And if you're in a startup environment, sometimes you're working a lot of hours, right? Like your startup family, you almost see as much as your family at home. So I think what's important there is for us to kind of show appreciation to the partners at home. And so during our Christmas parties, we usually have, families involved in those things so that we can say, thank you. They're as important as the individual that's in the desk working in our office.
I think it's mostly just like showing people what we're about, and then that's either going to resonate with them or not. So it's not saying like, hey, if you're like this, don't apply. It's more like, this is what we're like. So we're hoping their strategy is that people like breeds like. So those people are going to apply, and people that see us and they're like, wow, this place looks lame, I'm definitely not applying there. They won't, right? So great, done. We haven't had to do any interviews or anything else to figure that out.
That's something like, especially in the interview process, we try to be really honest and transparent with, what we're expecting from people as well. And I think that's really important. I know so many companies that kind of don't do that. They paint this really nice picture of what you're going to come into, and then as soon as you're in that situation, it's a little bit different than what was sold to you. And we try not to do that, because it's really expensive to bring someone in and have them not be a good fit. And it's toxic to the team.
Potentially. Should we end it there for time?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're their moderator. You tell us. Are we done here, or what's going on? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, totally. We got time.
Is there an ideal number of core values? Have you found that too many can muddy the waters?
I would say that there is not an ideal number of core values, but I do think brevity helps. Yeah, I think not having too many. So people can remember them. That's the point. If you want to be able to ask an employee, what are our core values? And they be like, crap, I got stuck on 6. Like, I can't remember beyond that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the rule of thumb. If you can't remember them, then I don't know.
Right, and one quick last one. Any particular resources / books on entrepreneurship that you would recommend?
Oh, man, do we have a book list? We've got a book club, so.
So we do have one on our website.
But off the cuff,
yeah.
Some favorites. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. We got our whole team to read that book to get people on board. Right now we're reading From Good to Great.
Delivering Happiness, which is Zappo's story, I think is really good. Rework from the Basecamp guys, I think is really good.
I personally really like Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah, there's tons. And I think if you put those books in to Audible, it'll give you a bunch of suggestions that are really good as well.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having us, everyone. Aw, that's nice. Thanks.